Hello, everybody. Welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj.
And my name is James.
Let's do this. Bring the energy on a Monday morning as we're recording. Game week 26 is done, dusted, tied up in a neat bow. And we have less than 48 hours now until game week 27.
We do. I'd like to thank you.
Coming thick and fast.
I'd like to thank you for a lot of my energy today.
Okay, why?
Well, your team pulled off a bit of a shot on Saturday. I would say well
yes,
done.
we did. And it was a fantastic performance. We will be talking about that. I don't feel like I'm going to Leicester on Thursday. Leicester, the home game for West Ham. Shout out to Sham for sorting me out with big tickets. It'll be the last time I'm coming over to England before the end of the season. So only my second game of the season, but off the back of the win at the weekend, I'm quite looking forward to it now because I think the atmosphere will be really good. If we'd have lost, cold Thursday night, rainy, dark, miserable, whereas when you come off the back of a win like that, your mood's definitely lifted, and I want to go and see the team. So I'm good, and your team did the business as well, James. So it wouldn't have felt as good if you hadn't done the business yourselves, coming back down on the train from Ipswich. But well done to the Spurs as well.
Yeah, good weekend, except for
Indeed.
shitty FPL.
FPL's not so bad. Can I just say before we get into our teams, because I want to get into our teams, right? To the people at official FPL, missing deadlines is my thing, right? It's my shtick. I'm all about the missing deadlines. If I no longer know when the deadline is, or when you're even going to close the game, how am I going to miss deadlines? It's absolutely not fair to take away my identity from me.
It's true. They've missed more deadlines than you this season, remarkably.
Apparently so. So I'm not happy about this, FPL, because you're taking away my value to the community by no longer having fixed deadlines. So please don't let it happen again in the future. Otherwise, I'll be speaking to my lawyers, is all I can say about that.
Yeah. The guy who's number one in the world now bought Glasner after the 6:30 cutoff.
Yeah, I know a few people have been up in arms about it. I can summarize my opinion.
Who cares, man?
I couldn't care less. If they wanted to then enforce it, I was thinking about this yesterday or the day before, because a few questions popped up on it and stuff like that, James. If they wanted to enforce the rules as they were, then your team would be deleted. You'd have to be out the game, James.
Yeah. Moving on swiftly.
It clearly says you can only have 3 players from one team, and you started the season with 4. So
that's it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That. So
manipulation there. What? You had 4 players? Yes, I did. Going into game week 1, one of them
the
got
rules
injured.
Stay 3, right? So well, whatever. I mean, honestly, we cannot take this game. I get it when people are mini league money and stuff and that, but also that is breaking the rules. So yeah, whatever is my exact answer to that. James, scored 77 points this week, which I'm quite happy with. I was 5 points off safety, so I did get a red arrow. Having said that, no chips, right? So when I looked on live FPL, it said that the top 10K had 12.75 active players. So if you include the manager, right? Because any week you'd have 12 when you double up your captaincy. And overall in the game was 12.25, give or take, 12.2. So quite a lot of people will have had an Arseman live. So I've gone into the week with 1 less player than everybody else. And I'm only 5 points off safety when you consider quite a few people that would have gambled on a bonus Arseman have done quite well and pulled it off. So to be 5 points off safety, I'm pretty happy. I sold Gakpo for Cunha. I did it on the Thursday when I thought a price rise was coming. So yeah, that worked out pretty well with the 9 points from Cunha. Chris Wood with an assist. Isak did the business. Mo Salah captain, as did everybody. And then clean sheets from Trent and Flecken. Flecken did well in the end to keep a clean sheet, but yeah, so 77 points. The fail of the week was obviously I decided to gamble on Mikalenko over Lewis Hall with the view that I'd get clean sheet out of Mikalenko, and the chances of Hall keeping a clean sheet were less. Well, Lewis Hall's gone on to concede 3, and Mikalenko was doing all right until the 55th, 60th minute or what have you. I did think Everton should be able to batten down the hatches, and they didn't. But obviously, Lewis Hall's popped up with 1 assist and 1 cross and picked up the 9 points. So I lost out 8 points there. If I'd have made that move or I played Hall, I would have been on a green arrow. But I'm not sweating it, James, to be honest with you. So all good. I'm happy to have got Cunha in. Like, nobody saw that coming, really. That victory, but also the fact that he picks up maximum bonus points when he scores again.
What he does. So, it's what he does, basically, when he scores. Him and Wood so often, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why I look at my front line of Cunha, Wood and Isak, and I'm just like, yeah, I don't see when I'm going to change that, to be honest with you. Isak don't play in 29, but I'm not selling him. No way at all. So, yeah, happy overall. The other thing is, like, I went into the week with 5 free transfers. I had to use 1. I've now still got 5 free transfers.
You know what you're doing?
Well, I've got 4 free transfers because I've used 1 already.
Okay, please. I know what I'm doing this week. Please tell me you're not buying someone I'm buying.
I've sold Anthony Gordon.
Shit. I'm doing that.
Yeah, I sold Anthony Gordon. I bought Jared Bowen yesterday. There was a 50-50 chance that he was going to go up in price. It's not just off the back of scoring against Arsenal. You saw the goal he took the week before. He looks on it. We played well. The fixtures just, Leicester at home. Newcastle at home isn't great, but it's at home. And then we've got Everton. So for the run of 3, I think it's fine. And then you probably carry him into 29, depending on whether you're free hitting in 29 or not. He looks bang on it coming back from injury. So I decided that I want to take that risk. Here's the thing with moves like that. It could pay off in just the first game, again, in Leicester at home.
That's the only reason why I'm buying him.
And anything you get beyond that could end up being a bonus for you. So I think, seeing what I just saw with Leicester, I can't go into it without him. I don't want Gordon moving forward. So
I think that, my question to you was going to be, because obviously he came off with about 10 minutes to go. Did he leave the pitch fine? It
wasn't 10 minutes if you had the added time. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Because actually he wasn't going to come off. When they were making the substitution, I think they planned for Kudus to come off for some reason. And the commentators and they were saying, because they obviously know who's been given to the assistant referee to hold the board up, that it was Kudus. Then the game carried on for a little bit because the ball just didn't go dead for whatever reason. And then they changed it to Bowen, must have come off. But he did this post-match interview. He looked sharp. He didn't mention anything in his post-match interview other than he's just fit and ready to go. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't even last night when I looked on live FPL, he wasn't due to go up. It was he might reach by the end of the day.
He might do tonight, yeah.
I just didn't want the headache of it. Like, I was like, do you know what it is with we get busy? I'm like, just get it done. I know I'm going to do it. I know he's not got an injury. I know he's going to play, and I know I want to do it. Just get it done in case he does go up. And I did it.
Probably going to do it tonight. Well, you're not playing till Thursday. I'm guessing I probably don't get anything from Potter before deadline.
No.
But I might wait till tomorrow because the value side of it is way less important to myself. Because if I get something else that's injured tomorrow, it's a problem. So I might have to wait till tomorrow. I scored 79 this week. Returns for Trent, clean sheet. Lewis Hall's points, Captain Mo. Well, I mean, geez, we'll talk about him again in a sec. Isak, Mateta. I also bought Cunha for Gakpo. On Friday. That was a really close call, really, for me, Cunha Vissa. I kind of went with Cunha because I knew I'd end up chasing it. And I think a lot of people are going to be chasing Cunha over these next few weeks. And it just didn't commit me towards what I might end up doing in Gameweek 29, which genuinely could well be wildcard in now, as I'd covered on a few bits and pieces last week. And that's also a little bit of an influence in the decisions I'm going to make now. So the first priority move for me is not to buy Bowen. That's a decision I've made over 2 other players that I want to buy. Number 1 is I'm buying Nkunku for Diallo. I realised there's nothing to see here in terms of what he's shown for Chelsea in these last couple of games. Well, that's just Southampton and Leicester. Let's go and attack that. And that's similarly why I'm going Jared Bowen. Bowen's a choice, one of 3 players, Bumo being another one. and Ebe Eze being the other. I mean, Eze looked much better at the weekend. And for me, the decision really is only over the next two games ultimately. But Bowen does swing it a little bit more because, like you said, 29-30 is still okay. If I do end up changing my mind and holding it and going through 29, and an inevitable red arrow that would come my way. But if I decide to just hold through that and wait a little bit longer, Bowen is a little bit more useful to me. But ultimately, I just want to attack them bottom three teams at the moment with a couple of differentials. That's why Nkunku I'm going to punt because I think he's the most likely of the Chelsea attackers, bar Palmer, to potentially go big. And similarly, when I look at the Bumo, Eze, Bowen fixtures and looking at them all at home over the next two, Bumo doesn't have one of them three promoted teams. Eze does in Ipswich in 28, but Bowen against Leicester right in front of my face first. Then it's a Newcastle team who've got their last game before the Carabao Cup final. Their minds might be slightly elsewhere. So I decided to go with Bowen because I think he's the one that's got the biggest upside of going mad. Obviously, you watch Bumo Friday night, and I'm like, maybe do I want to cover that off? But I got a stat I want to throw about and Bumo
Yeah, I mean
in a
his
little bit
fixtures,
about the games.
Everton, Villa, Bournemouth, Newcastle, Chelsea, Arsenal. Bar
But I'm only
Everton,
potentially looking at the next
all of the
two,
others are
really.
the top seven or whatever they are in the league, right? And
And Bumo
Everton
would
have
also be
the
fine for 29. I could see me going if I carried through. I could see me going like Bumo
yeah.
to Eze in 30, for
But
example.
like I said, all of those Villa, Bournemouth, Newcastle, Chelsea, Arsenal are in the top seven. And Everton before that have the second or third, I think it's the third best defensive record in terms of goals conceded in the league. Third or fourth they are, like only 33 goals conceded or something stupid like that. So the advantage with Bowen that I've seen quite a few people mention, and they are right, is with Paqueta out for a few weeks, Bowen's on penalties as well. Bumo has that. With Palace, they don't get penalties, but I think it'd be Mateta. So I think
Yeah.
Bowen, with that in mind, is a fine. Bowen is a fine shout over Bumo for now. Yeah,
And Eze was a real consideration for me as well. Whereas when we did COTC last week, I was like, you can't buy him at the moment. Watching bits of that game Saturday night, he looked lively again. Um, and the spacing is a little bit better for them after Villa. I don't think there's a concern now that he wouldn't start Villa Tuesday. There's a few players, Morgan Rogers is going to be one there's a concern about. And that's what's pushing me to the four as well. I'm now potentially carrying Diallo's obviously useless for me, but I decided to prioritise Cunha over buying a Bournemouth midfielder. I might be down to Diallo and Rogers. Then I'm looking at like Gordon at Liverpool. He's got a big home bias over away anyway. We know that. It's West Ham away afterwards. So yeah, I'm going to chase that as a -4. I think that's highly likely what I'm going to do, subject to the team news. Captaincy this week. Suj, we're going to do captaincy and Arsenal, then we'll cover the games. We'll try and keep it a bit shorter this week because we know it's deadline tomorrow. Is it just Mo, Suj, or are you tempted by Palmer?
I was tempted until the game yesterday, until the Man City Liverpool game yesterday. I had looked at it, even like I'm looking at Cunha at home to Fulham, might be an interesting shout. Now that I've bought Bowen, do I really fancy that on the Thursday night? Have a couple of beers, have my captain playing, and watch West Ham win 3-0. What a night. But then he just keeps returning again and again. I don't have the cojones to do it, James. I'm sorry. I'm going to leave the armband on him. And I think now they can smell that title. They could have it wrapped up in the next 6 or 7 games. If Arsenal continues to drop points, they can smell it. Newcastle, despite doing well that second half, they were under the cosh and have ended up conceding 3 in that game. So for me, I'm going to keep it on Mo.
Um, yeah, a couple of key influences. I mean, Salah being one, anyways, is not. I'm always saying week after week, it's like I need a good reason to take him on. Now, Palmer playing Southampton, I think is a very good reason to truthfully consider it. Few off-putting things. One, that second half from Newcastle yesterday was disastrous. Really, they were a little bit fortuitous. If it had carried on, Forest would have scored eventually.
Yep.
They were shaky as hell. Playing Liverpool next after a shaky doesn't. But I certainly understand Hall against Salah. I think is fine as a matchup, but he just gets himself into position so well. The other thing that really puts me off, and this is something I've mentioned in the past about captain players, I don't know where Palmer's going to play. I don't at the moment. I don't know if he's 9, he's 10, he's on the right. I don't know if they might kind of build to that 3-1-6 shape with him sitting behind the line of five at the top. I don't know where he's going to play. So there's enough in that. Of course, he could go off big, but yeah, there's not enough reason for me to take on Mo. So I'll be captaining Mo.
Yeah, even the fringe players don't fill me with that much excitement. To be honest with you,
I
yeah,
think
not
probably
going to do it.
Bowen would be next best this week.
Yeah, yeah. Considering the opponent, yeah, definitely.
I think it arguably would be Mateta would sorry, no, they've got it switched the week after, doesn't they? Not this week,
Yeah,
Mateta. Bumo again, maybe. You're not going Isak this week.
no.
I don't think you'd go Haaland at the moment. He's obviously going to
Well,
be a
we might
doubt for
not
Wednesday
play.
night
Yeah.
anyway. You're not considering Arsenal players at this moment. I don't think the Bournemouth guys at Brighton is a no. Watkins at Palace, no. So, yeah, I think other than Salah, Palmer, arguably Bowen would maybe be the next bet. I wouldn't go Bowen over Palmer, though. No.
No, I wouldn't either. Southampton obviously conceded a hatful of goals as well at the weekend. Should we talk about Arsenal, man?
Yeah, briefly, because a few will have activated in 25, no doubt. This chip is becoming a right pain in the arse, man. By the way, can I just say it's very interesting. Such a swingy game week this week. I was looking through correspondent league, Suj, where I currently maintain a place in joint second at the moment. Lee Jackson flying into the top
He
5K
is.
actually.
Yeah.
All of the top 12 played are on the assistant manager chip last week, other than me.
They activated it last week, or they had it
They've
from
been on it. I don't
24
know
or
what week they've
25.
activated it,
Sure.
but they had an assistant manager last week. Look at these scores. I'm just going to shout them out: 82, 79, 114, 107, 73, 87, 100, 84, 81, 97, 59, 117. What a swingy game week, mate. Felt
Yeah,
like
20 points, 20, 25 points in it, just
I
because
won't
of the Arsenal.
I won't grass up who scored the 59, but I'll be doing a podcast with him on Wednesday.
Okay.
He's had a bad weekend. I'm not going to kick a man when he's down. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
So yeah, really swingy. It felt like when you look on socials, everybody as assistant manager on Glasner. That's how it felt.
Yeah, because they're the only ones that are going to talk about it.
I'm
I
looking at
did tell
teams. I'm
everyone,
like, how have they got 25 more points than me? And this little prick
Arsenal,
is in the corner, and he.
Arsenal. Yeah, I did. All I'll say is I did tell everyone all of last week that Potter was the best choice.
Yeah, all right, boss. Yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
not.
yeah.
Look, this is the thing though, right? Of all the fixtures at the weekend, who had the highest probability of a win? Mikel Arteta. Who came out with 0 points, James? Arteta. So, this is it.
I can't believe they lost to you. To be honest, we'll talk about it.
I don't know how we've kept 2 clean sheets of the Emirates in the last 2 seasons, and yet in the same 2 seasons conceded 11 goals
At
at
home.
our place against them.
Weird.
It is very bizarre, but that's the shows the swingy nature of it. I think a lot of people are kind of using this parallel analysis, and it's a bit gambly. It's a bit like taking punts. It's bringing in odds and percentage and taking a punt on stuff a little too much. I don't go that far. But my takeaway, having not played the chip and what I've seen in the first 3 weeks, is very much now that I want to look and find where are the bonuses. Where are the bonuses? Whereas initially there was the double game week, so you're kind of banking on that. If I had a double game week of a premium manager, then I understand that. But I don't think I want to play it on a premium manager, i.e. no bonus opportunity, unless they've got a double game week. I'm going to look and find the opportunities. Are your thoughts similar now? Now that you've seen how it's played out for other people, do you want to find a run of 3 or 4 games?
I'm
where you
fairly sure I'll be using it 31 to 33.
Yeah.
And what I want to do is, if a wild card in 29, I want to make sure I'm in a position I land in 31 with 2 Newcastle and 2 Palace, so I can go either way. That's
Okay.
rather than commit myself to I'll have treble Newcastle on the path. I want to leave it open because I do think, yeah, if it landed where Glasgow had a double 33, if the Brighton game in 31, which isn't currently, but if that was a bonus as well, then the idea of having 5 bonus games, even though they're rough, I just think get me 2 wins will do. Probably matches whatever Eddie Howe would do.
Yep.
And it doesn't have to be wins, does it? It could be a win and 2 draws even.
Yep.
So yeah, it depends how it lines up for Palace when we get there. But yeah, if that opportunity is on the table, I'll be chasing Glasner as well, I think. In terms of Arsenal's for this
I
forthcoming
mean,
week,
just think about it though. Glasner, so Tottenham, Palace, Everton, Man United, West Ham, all separated by 3 points. So Crystal Palace have a couple of good games. They could jump up. They're only 6 points behind Fulham. They could jump as high as 11th and 10th if they had a good run and things didn't go your way. You're talking about 5 weeks from now. So it's worth bearing in mind like what will happen between now and then in terms of what will and won't be a bonus game as well.
yeah, they might get caught by Everton and Man United. And if Brighton jump up, I realise there's 4 places between them at the moment, Palace and Brighton. Palace really can only jump 1 place at the max. Brighton could, I mean, it's not inconceivable to find themselves fourth in a couple of weeks. They're
Yeah.
only 4 points behind City, or fourth. So, I mean, if that like landed where it's Palace against Brighton, that's what I said about keeping the option open till whenever you land there, basically. There are, unless I've miscalculated this, there are 5 bonus opportunities for Arsenal this week. Eddie Howe away to Liverpool is, I think that's a strong no. Ange Postecoglou home to Manchester City, and it is going to be consecutive Arsenals for Ange. Bournemouth at home the week after. There is a small possibility, I guess, that Fulham, if they sort their form back out, there could be a third one in a row actually in 29. Crystal Palace at home to Villa, so Glasner again. Wolves at home to Fulham, Pereira, and obviously I know a few of the guys bats Pereira at the weekend. My recommendation actually for those who'd activated in 25 was to go Pereira for Wolves against Bournemouth and Fulham. And there's Juric as well. So realistically, it's Ange, Glasner or Pereira, isn't it?
Yeah.
Those have gone Glasner, so went from say Slot or Emery to Glasner, are not going to move. They'd stay Glasner. There's no reason to move that. Which one do you think's best? I think they could all get something.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I'd probably go to Glasner. I think because it's a home fixture. Look, you are Manchester City's bogey team, if ever there is one, with the amount of good results you've had over them over the years, and it's at your place. So I can't discount you with your record against Man City. You highlighted before we started recording how few points City have won in the last 17 games. It's bad. It really is.
It's 21 points in 17 games.
Yeah, it's not great. So there's the opportunity there potentially. And Pereira is a decent shout because again it's a home game. But I would probably go to Glasner based on what happened at the weekend. Yeah, I think I'd go Glasner, but then Postecoglou and then Pereira. But
I
exactly what you said. There's not much in it.
Win.
It's not much in it at all. And even if they don't, right, a draw, you're still getting 8 points plus whatever goals scored or clean sheets. So a draw is not a bad result when you're chasing a bonus. A draw with a bonus is worth more than a win without a bonus. Just on the points. Forget the goals and clean sheets side.
I think for anyone who did activate in 26 because they just wanted to chase a few bits, obviously if you went Glasner, you're sticking. If you went with anyone else, I think you're going Ange because there's 2 in a row and they're both home games. And Bournemouth now without Zabani is going to be pretty big. Unless they get that overturned, I don't think they will. Yeah, I think all of them are good choices. I'd arguably lean to Ange, you know.
Yeah, there's not much in it.
I know.
There's just
I'm
not
healing.
much in it.
I'm healing.
There's not much in it, and I get where you're coming from, right? I look at your historical record and where you can hurt them. There's definitely every opportunity. Like you'll be going to that game, I would say optimistic or definitely upbeat rather than here we go again mentality. So
what I would add is just a small point is that I think Palace and Wolves are probably a little bit more likely for a clean sheet than Tottenham. I've not looked at the odds, but I just know that watching my team. But Tottenham, I think, are as likely as the other two to get a victory. I think in terms of the betting odds, it would probably be Glasner. I think I've not looked, to tell you the truth. No. I'll have a look while you're talking.
Well, yes, we can indeed. I'm definitely looking. I wanted to find a 3-game run where I could find bonus for Graham Potter, to be honest with you, after the weekend, because I think if he gets his tactics right and has a week to set West Ham up, then I think he could do particularly well. But I didn't find any interesting opportunities there. I'm going to be bench boosting in 33, James. So this chasing the Newcastle Crystal Palace double is not going to work for me. But I do think 30, 31, 32 could potentially work for me. And I'll get the tail end of one double game week at least on my arse man before I have the bench boost in 33. Though it means I can't wildcard to set up for my bench boost if that's the path that I choose.
Okay.
Cool.
Tottenham, the
Cool.
outsiders of the three, Palace, Wolves, Tottenham. So City, the
So
shortest
the
price of the
bookies
away
don't
teams.
agree. Yeah.
Palace and Wolves is close and the betting it's favoured to Glasner. So from a betting odds perspective, Glasner would be the favourite out of Ange, Pereira and Glasner. So from that perspective, maybe it's Glasner again. I think we might beat City tomorrow Wednesday night though.
There's every chance with the form that they're in at the moment that they'll lose games. Yeah, for sure. Cool. Should we talk about some of these games?
Yeah, let's do it.
Just before we do, you alluded I might be on wildcard in game week 29. Should we leave that as put a pin in it and maybe we'll come back as a conversation point?
We'll do strategy podcast and I will know definitely what I'm doing by that point. Next Tuesday. We're going to do it on the Tuesday rather than the Monday because I do think, even I don't know when the draw will be yet, and even if we've got it, I do think Forest versus Ipswich is particularly important on Monday night. Because I think Forest Brentford in game week 34 is quite a hidden huge fixture in terms of strategy plans for people. So if we look after the draw and it's like Forest beat Ipswich, we've got a good draw. If Forest then look like they're going to blank in 34, I think it alters people's perceptions quite importantly. So I'd rather wait for that Monday night game to go out of the way. So we'll do chip strategy again next Tuesday.
Okie dokie. Cool. Let's talk about some of these games then, and we'll rattle through them because, as we know, a tight turnaround before the Tuesday night deadline. Leicester City 0, Brentford 4. Okay, they raced into a lead quite comfortably and then saw the game out. Leicester, I watched the second half of this, and Leicester did give it a go. As what else are you gonna do when you're kind of 3-0 down and chasing the game? But it was never in threat for Brentford because they still had another gear to go to. I think their midfield of like Norgard, Damsgaard and stuff is really underrated. It's like I feel like they're really, really good players that none of the bigger top clubs will ever quite come in for, but they're just so solid and reliable and consistent. I can't see like a Man City or an Arsenal coming in to nick any of those midfielders. But in terms of ability on the ball, like I'd have one of them within my team all day.
I think Janelt gives them good balance as well. I
Yeah.
think they've kind of shifted the system a little bit this year, where it's more of an orthodox 10 with Damsgaard. Often we've seen that with sort of Janelt and Jens on either side of Norgard. Damsgaard's had a fantastic season. I think he might even be second for assists in the league now, quietly doing really well. He's on 10 or 11, I think, in terms of assists. Norgard popped up with a header, which was from Damsgaard free kick, wasn't it? It's just atrociously defended, by the way. And Jared Bowen is good in the air for a little lad. And Leicester started all right, actually, had a few decent openings in the opening 10 minutes. Vardy had one great run and was unlucky not to score at 0-0. But once they went behind, and I think the manner of the goal was quite damaging as well, because it was an ugly goal, wasn't it? You know, Visser doesn't make brilliant contact with it. He makes the only contact he can, in fairness, but it's not brilliant contact. And then their heads went, wow. I mean, if they'd have been 5-0 down at half time, they couldn't have really put up a complaint. Brentford are a good side, but you shouldn't be in that position. I come back onto Leicester. I want to mention this Bumo stat that I said that I had for you, Suj. So he's got 5 double-digit returns this season.
Okay.
Really good. Third highest scoring midfielder in the game. Brilliant asset. If I could turn back the clock when a lot of us sold him around about game week 14, I think it was, when their fixtures got bad. Yeah, never would have done that, right? Would have kept hold of him if we could turn the clock back. Those double-digit hauls, Suj. 14 points against Southampton, 15 points against Ipswich, 13 points against Newcastle, 19 points against Southampton, 14 points against Leicester.
Flat track bully.
Well, Newcastle in there's a little bit of an anomaly. So
Yeah, I mean, when was
but
that? Was that when Newcastle were in a bad run before they turned the corner and started climbing up the table? It wasn't quite, was it?
No, I just think Newcastle had a really bad off day that day
Okay.
from memory. But yeah, 4 of those 5 returns against the bottom 3. So I agree with you. I think Everton are in decent form. I'm just chasing and blocking, aren't I? I'd rather attack, I think, considering I might be wildcarding quite quickly afterwards. Rather than protect, I want to go and attack. Might prove to be the wrong decision by all means. He's obviously a great asset. I'm definitely going to want him towards the end of the season. I mentioned the importance maybe of that Forest Brentford fixture in game week 34. But I don't think I chase him now. When Visser scored, I was like, oh no, he's going to haul. Because what I'd kind of said in my decision was going Cunha over Visser was for Visser to be the right choice, I needed Visser to haul, basically.
Yeah.
Because I felt Cunha's next couple was then a little bit better. When he scored, I was thinking, yeah, you're on for a big one here, mate. And he is very unlucky not to get the assist, by the way. Because on the fourth goal, I think the final touch comes off
I
him.
thought so too. I saw another angle. I think Brentford posted an angle from behind the goal to the side, and it did look like he should have got the assist.
I mean, it's not intentional. He's just trying to kind of block it. But it does look like the ball spins. It must come off his toe because the ball spins into a different trajectory. You cannot blame FPL on this, I'm afraid, because this comes down to a factual: did he touch it or not? And Opta have not given it to him. So this isn't, say, like the Lewis Hall second assist that got cancelled yesterday. It's a subjective call. Was he looking for Willock or Murphy? That's down to opinion. This is factual. Did he touch it or didn't he?
Yep.
Opta have said he didn't. So FPL can't step in and give it to him. So that they're just following Opta on that. Brentford having a great season. They're kind of at the bottom of this pack now that could challenge for Champions League football. I don't see them chasing it, but 2 home games, if they did really well over the next 2 home games, Europe will get mentioned, in breath with them. Pinnock was seamlessly back in the team in place of Van den Berg, who's been out. Those who'd been on that and were hoping to get points in 29, I'd say that looks very doubtful for you. Christopher Aguerd play at right back. I think that's fine. Van den Berg could come back in for him if he's available. Keane Lewis Potter's doing outstanding at left back. Honestly, I wouldn't have a problem if he got a look at Thomas Tuchel's England squad, actually. I think he's a brilliant young talent. Yeah, good side, Brentford. Leicester, that's disastrous. 6 consecutive home games without scoring a goal. That's the first time it's ever happened in Premier League history.
They only score against your team and my team, James.
That's good.
Right, they scored a couple against Brighton, 1 against Villa, but other than that, yeah, under.
I don't think he'll see out the season, and I don't think it's a case of he's inept or anything like that. I think he'll probably look back and think I shouldn't have taken this job.
No.
And he said after the game as well, he's like, look, we've got a massive task to stay up with the squad we've got. You don't think you can say that. You're protecting yourself. You're saying the players aren't good enough, and we can all see that. Manager of the team, you've probably got to take a little bit of a different approach. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if after the West Ham game, to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if I heard today they changed their minds. I wouldn't be surprised if Thursday goes badly, then with a bit of break before they play again. If they change their minds on him, wouldn't be surprised at all. I do think that they might change to a back 3 against you, which is a little off-putting maybe, but I think that's what they might do. It's clear the fans there are unhappy with a few people, particularly the ironic cheers when Buonanotte came on for Ayew. Ayew was a good experienced player. To be honest, as soon as Buonanotte come on the pitch, it looked lively, like he wanted to try and make things happen. They didn't particularly come off for him. The centre-back pairing, in fact, all of the back 4 are disastrous. O'Colly didn't play well. That said, I wouldn't sleep well if I ever had to play next to Belfast. He really is sideshow Bob too, because you don't know from week to week if he's going to be good or absolutely terrible. He was absolutely terrible. I thought Koulibaly at right back really struggled. Christensen's let Bumo come in so easy for his goal, which very well taken by Bumo, obviously. Yeah, Bowen. Yeah, that's ultimately it's a Leicester decision, as it parties with Nkunku because Chelsea play him next week as well. As much as people are talking about the top being done, and I think it obviously nearly is for Liverpool, the bottom 3 is as well, isn't it?
I really think so, yeah. I really think so. They're on 17 points. Ipswich tied with Ipswich. I'd say if anyone was going to get out of it, it'd be Ipswich, not Leicester.
Nico, put a vote up on YouTube, right? Here's one for you. What's more likely to happen? Liverpool not to win the league or Wolves to get relegated?
What's more, the way you phrase that question with like,
Should
what's
I phrase it
more
the other way
likely
around?
to not
Yeah,
happen?
what's more likely to happen? Liverpool
Wolves
not to
are
win the
more
league
likely Wolves are
or
more
Wolves to get
likely to get
relegated?
relegated than Liverpool are to not win the league. I think Wolves could still completely capitulate, whereas Liverpool, the league is done for me. But the likelihood of Wolves capitulating is small, and I think the only team out of the bottom three that could catch them would be Ipswich.
Agreed.
But yeah, I don't see it.
Yeah, no. So it's all about the race for fourth, which is actually fifth. Okay, enough of that. Let's move on.
Everton 2, Manchester United 2. Beto back on the score sheet. Decore popping up with a golden assist. My Mikalenko clean sheet points just flitted away into the wind with Bruno Fernandes doing quite well. I didn't think, I thought up until 60, 65 minutes, I did think, come on, Everton should be able to see this out. I hope that David Moyes has got these guys on a massive clean sheet bonus because it will motivate them to. But credit to United for kind of plugging away and to keep pushing. Is there no temptation for any Manchester United players for you, James? Because they've got Ipswich and then a difficult game against Arsenal, but then they've got Leicester themselves as well. So two of the next three against bottom three sides, the likes of a Bruno or something. No,
Yeah, I considered Fernandes. The problem with Fernandes is, in comparison to the other players I'd mentioned, is he
money.
could end up in a fixture like this. No, not particularly. I think I can make it happen. He could end up back in central midfield against Ipswich, and then it's Arsenal afterwards. So it's just not as appealing. 29's decent, obviously Leicester away. So if you're looking at all three, it's fine. I would have rather punted something like Garnacho. I don't know why he's not starting at the weekend. It's so much
Because
more
he keeps
threatening when he's
missing
on the pitch.
chances, mate.
Yeah, but there's so much more threatening with him on the pitch, man. I
But he
get it. He
misses
doesn't fit the
every chance they
system
have.
brilliantly, but yeah. It looks like, and I didn't watch the game, but it looks like it was a little bit more, kind of a little bit of a switcher system with Xerxes closer to Hoyland and Fernandes dropping in deeper to join in alongside Casemiro and Ugarte. United are never going to have consistent results if they've got Casemiro in midfield. You know how old he is, Suj?
35 now, 36. They bought him at 32, 33. So
No, I think he's only that. He's about 32, 33.
it's not that old.
You
It's not
know,
that young, is he?
yeah. Yeah, you think he's like an old man. He's like 37 or something. He's not. He's not. And I tell you what, I will tell you while you're looking. Do you know how old Idrissa Gana Gay is?
Idrissa Gana Gay, because I've got it open in front of me, is older.
That's
He's
cheating.
35. Let's find
Idrissa Gana
Casemiro.
Gay, who won 9 tackles at the weekend, and he might even be leading the league for tackles now. I know he was certainly in the top five when I last looked. How old's Casemiro?
33.
There you go.
It was his birthday yesterday, 23rd of February,
Happy
1992.
birthday.
So he was 32 if you'd asked me a couple of days ago. When he played this game, he was 32, James. But now he
Anyway,
is
I think
33.
they've part done that with Fernandez and Ugarte playing a little bit more either side of him is to help because as a two, even they did okay at Tottenham the week before, but Casemiro and Fernandez were getting manipulated down the sides quite badly. Um,
I
and
did
I
see
think
bits of this game, and the bits I saw it when Everton were 2-0 up while I was doing a bit of cooking, and Everton had all the chances. This is kind of like the second half up until 60, 65 minutes, and they still pressed ahead. Like Decore had the one which Anana made a great save. Had it gone three, I don't think United would have been able to come back.
they cannot handle at the moment, Manchester United. A couple of things they can't handle. One is something I'd highlighted on a Talking Tactics I did a few weeks ago. Anybody who keeps their wide players high and wide is just going to pin them into a back five. Therefore, they then get manipulated badly in midfield. They also suffer incredibly badly against any team that oppresses aggressively. Any team. That's how Ipswich have to go there on Wednesday night. They have to go and press aggressively. The problem with Ipswich is they're not as stable defensively as what Everton are in terms of their individual and their collective as a team. But that's what they'll have to go and do to stand a chance of going there and winning. And Everton ultimately should have taken this game away from United. It changes on a brilliant free kick from Fernandes, which I think Jordan Pickford would be really disappointed about because it is ultimately his side. And then a good strike from Ugarte. So it's two long range efforts. I think United XG was under zero point 0.5 in the game. They do, as you said, deserve real credit for sticking at this. And clearly, They showed a bit of commitment towards the end of the game.
Yeah, 0.41 was their XG. Everton nearly racked up 2.
However, Evertonians will not forgive me if I do not mention the controversial incident at the end, because I think we can debate whether that's a penalty or not, but I don't think we can understand why VAR intervened. 2 things happened here. Ashley Young has his shirt pulled twice. Twice. That's clear. Ashley Young also dives. It's also clear. But as I say all the time, if Ashley Young does not go down in that moment, he ain't getting a penalty. So he's got to, unfortunately, hate the rules rather than the player. Once it's given as a penalty, it has to stand as a penalty. I don't know why VAR are calling that as a clear and obvious error, and then they don't show him the best angle in terms of where the shirt's being pulled. Twice his shirt gets pulled. Don't understand that. United got big problems. We'll talk about this, I think, a bit more on our Patreon podcast on Money in Football. I'm sure United will get a reference on Thursday. So we're talking about PSR is hanging around for an extra year. And that's extremely bad news for Manchester United. They are in no danger of getting relegated this year. They might be next.
Yeah, struggling to see where it gets any better, particularly.
They can't invest in the squad.
Everton have got a few good fixtures if you're holding the likes of Everton players. I've got Mikalenko. Like Brentford away is not great, but then Wolves, West Ham afterwards up until 29 is fine. After that, it gets rough. Liverpool, Arsenal, Forest, City, Chelsea. But at that point, you're getting into wildcard territory, or you can bench and move on players. So yeah, Everton doing great. I reckon they'll beat us in 29. You know, I just think the Moyes versus West Ham, that little bit of needle, because he left not in the best way. Like, there was no hard feelings or what have you, but he clearly probably didn't.
He felt he should have got a new contract.
He should have got a new contract. So I think there'll be a little bit in that. So yeah, I'd be holding, and I'll probably play Mikalenko against Wolves and West Ham, depending on what else I have at the time. I assume you're playing
in 29 unless you're free hitting.
No, well, I probably, to be confirmed now, because each week that passes, I am removing non-players from Gameweek 29. Like, say Morgan Rogers comes out and is actually out for 2 or 3 weeks. That's another one that I'm going to move on that was not going to play.
Ranking anyway, so
no, but then I don't have any use for him prior to that or after, so he really becomes expendable. So yeah, we shall see.
Yeah, I don't think you're attacking Everton assets. I think if people were looking at Beto, and he's obviously scored again, I think there's different players you're looking at now rather than Beto. Part thinking about what's after game week 28. It is rough for Everton once you get beyond the blank game week. Anything you've got, I agree. It's a hold. Find a player if you want to. I don't think you're investing, no. Manchester United, I get it, because Ipswich and Leicester is either side of Arsenal at home. Arsenal at home, timing-wise, doesn't look as bad as what it did. So maybe, is there a little case for United defensive one over the next 3?
Too many other better options, mate. Too many other better options.
Yeah, I'd rather be chasing an 8 Norrie, for example, if I was going to take that sort of route.
Yep, good. Let's talk about Arsenal 0, West Ham United 1. Yeah, solid result. I didn't see any fan cams or discussions afterwards from Arsenal fans.
Oh, I did. I watched a few of them.
No, I watched them all. I didn't see any that said that it wasn't their own fault. They all kind of...
Well, even Arteta just said it wasn't good enough.
No one deserved...
Can't believe it.
Yeah, not at all. And credit to West Ham, to be honest. Credit to Potter, because changed system to back 3. And Todibo, who hadn't played for a while, came back into the back 3 on the right. You've got Aaron Creswell playing on the left. Not only that, he then played Ollie Scholes for his Premier League debut at left back ahead of Emerson, which was quite a bold move to make, and then stuck in a midfield 3 of Ward-Prowse, Soucek and Alvarez. They're not attacking minded. Ward-Prowse can play a ball through, but he's not attacking minded, when they just left the 2 up top in Kudus and Bowen and completely stifled them. They just 20 shots for an XG of 1.2. Just never felt threatened at all. Never felt threatened. Obviously, you do feel when they've got it and you're like, don't let him shoot, or periods like that. But other than that, Arsenal just completely played into West Ham's hands, kept trying to move it out wide. You're not going to get the ball in the box and beat the likes of Kilman or Todibo with the types of forwards that they had. Marino didn't work as a false 9. He was chasing around a lot, and then ended up giving away a lot of fouls where he's trying to get the ball back from a press or what have you. He doesn't know how. He wasn't very good at pressing without giving away a foul. And on the flip side, every time Kudus got the ball or Bowen got the ball, like they pick it up and drive at him. It was always an outlet on the other end and a little bit of threat. Wasn't right. We were peppering their goal, but played really well. Arsenal, I think, without the up top, they look tepid at the moment. People that have gambled on a Trossard or a Nwaneri or even Arteta will come away from this stupidly disappointed.
I've bust Fabianski in my team this week.
Okay.
Is that right? I mean, I know he's not going to play, but is that right? It's just an off question.
Why? He's not going to play.
Because
Areola's going to play in goal.
If Fabiola breaks his hand in training on Wednesday, I'd rather Fabianski against Leicester than Pickford or Brentford. Is that right or wrong?
Yeah. No, it's fine.
He could also break his hand.
We were fine defensively.
He could break his hand after 65 minutes, couldn't he? And then that's useless for me. Yeah, what's the right decision there? Yeah,
no, you'd play Pickford. Areola's going to start, mate. You're going to play Pickford. Areola did fine as well. But yeah, it was a really, really good outcome. Kudus, I'm not being funny. Kudus was unplayable in terms of...
I heard he was great.
He just, every time he picked the ball up, he's always been this guy that you can't get the ball off him when he dribbles. He's not silky or smooth like a Rolls Royce, but he twists, he turns, he just never loses the ball. Here's the thing, like I put it out on the socials. Last year, he had the most dribbles completed in the league, right? 124. The next highest was Doku with like 80 something. So he was like 50% more than Doku.
That was just against Liverpool yesterday, wasn't it?
He's top this season already, and he missed 5 games from suspension. And he's completed more dribbles this season already. He's like 65 or 70.
FPL managers, you don't get points for dribbles. It does help with the VPS though.
But I'm just saying, he just, when he gets the ball and runs, he's so hard to get it off him. There are end product isn't always there. I get that. And there are other factors that make him frustrating. But picking the ball up and running, sure. And the likes of Saliba and Gabriel are strength-minded defensively. They struggled a little bit with his style of attacker because he's quite unique in the way he played the game. So, yeah, really good result. I heard someone saying, look, when you look at Graham Potter, his best performances always come when he's had a full week to set his team up for the opposition and what have you. A week ago, he'd had 2 weeks to set them up for Brentford and they were dog shite. So I don't buy into that. But, yeah, it did well. Carry the momentum into Leicester. I think Bowen is... people who ask questions, I looked at the Twitter questions, James, that we posted on the tweet, and there was like 4 or 5 about him. I just bought him last night, so what other advice can I give other than I think it's the place to go?
All right,
I wouldn't be investing in any Arsenal, really. I'm glad that I avoided David Raya a couple of weeks ago because I could have ended up doing Flecken to Raya last week, and I've ended up with 2 clean sheets in a row of Flecken, and would have been none of Raya.
We'll come back onto them in a second. Firstly, a few quick fire ones on West Ham. Why definitively Bowen over Kudus then?
Penalties, goal threat.
More likely to go off big, right? Yeah, but Kudus could. Yeah. I mean,
Kudus can and has, but I'd pay the extra for Bowen. There's just something.
Should I consider his going
composure
both?
In front of goal. It'd be a good punt. I didn't watch the Chelsea game or the highlights. So I heard that Nkunku played off the left and then was interchanging a bit. Does that put you off Nkunku at all?
Not particularly. I don't really know. To be honest, I wouldn't even say Nkunku's the difference between saying Nkunku and Kudus to compare those two is I do know Kudus will play. Nkunku is not even a definite starter.
So with that in mind, because that's the choice, right? Nkunku versus Kudus, as opposed to Bowen.
Not really. I'm buying Nkunku.
No. Okay. So, but then, yeah, it is a punt, but by all means, it's not the worst one out there for sure.
Do you think you will play a back 5 again against Leicester, or do you think he'll change back to a back 4?
Back 4.
Agreed.
I think he can easily drop Creswell out. Tadibo played 60 minutes. It felt like that was a pre-planned substitution. Ollie Scholes, obviously, he's a young kid. Every performance he's been in the team, he's done well. Whether or not Emerson will come back in for him or not, whether he's trying to break him into the team slowly, but he's only a 19-year-old boy, done well. So I don't know, but I think we'll go back to a back 4.
If people want a defensive one, for this period leading up to the blank, it's Wan-Bissaka, isn't it?
Yeah,
Now at this
yeah,
stage.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, you know how teams have a bias on one side where one fullback will stick in, the other will bomb forward. I think if he plays Skulls, Wan-Bissaka gets the bomb forward. If he plays Emerson, Emerson likes to get forward, so it doesn't give us the freedom to do that.
Yeah, I think if you did want to, I don't highly recommend it to be honest, but if you did want a West Ham defender for the next year, I think Wan-Bissaka at 4.4 do absolutely fine. He obviously got the assist here
Is he
for
4-4? I thought he was 4-6.
no, it's 4.4.
Oh, wow, I
Same
didn't realise it was down to that.
same price as Mikalenko, and he's got two
He
more
is as
points this
well.
season. On the goal, he obviously does really well in terms of the assist for Bowen, and
Fantastic delivery.
so often has been criticised for that. The final ball, right? He's a brilliant final ball. Quite why Calafiori lets him go 40 odd yards,
Gives him all the
unchallenged.
space in the world. Yeah. He was fearful of closing him down. I didn't get it.
And Calafiori will have to play presumably against Elanga on Wednesday because Lewis Skelly is suspended, and there's no debate on this in terms of
No,
a red card this time.
I was just surprised they didn't give it straight away. That's
I
how
understand
this it was.
that actually. I know a lot of people are like, I don't understand why he didn't send him off straight away. I do feel like with that one, and you could say, well, you've got to say it's definitively wrong. But I think if there's any doubt, the referee shouldn't send the player off. I think that's right. If he's not, I'm not sure. Remember, he's not on the side on. We see a lot of the replays.
Yeah,
side
he can't
on,
see the
right?
keeper
He's
behind him or whatever.
So you've got to judge the distances. It's not as easy as it might sound when you're at pitch level. Trust me. So if he's not sure, and it is on the halfway line, right? I think going yellow originally is fine, and then what he should be doing is literally getting on the mic and going, I think that's so borderline. I'm going to go yellow for
What's
now.
going on?
We don't know, but that's what he should probably be saying. He should probably be saying, if you think it's a red, I'll change.
Yeah.
He should be leading that in terms of the conversation, in my opinion.
Do you know what I felt when that happened? I actually genuinely felt I would rather have had the opportunity to score the goal than the red card. I would rather he had not made the foul and Wan-Bissaka and Kudus would have had the opportunity to go 2-0 up. I'd have rather been 2-0 up and play out the last 20 minutes or whatever than had them down to 10 men and be 1-0 up.
I'd have definitely taken a red card under that circumstance.
Nah, because I just didn't see where, if we were 2-0 up, they were never going to score 2 or 3, maybe 1. And that was, Kudus would have scored there.
Maybe it had gone 2-0, maybe that might have got back to 2-2 or something. Who knows with 11. For Arsenal, it's obviously incredibly deflating. There was a scenario this weekend where if they won and Liverpool lost, then actually the title would be in their hands. And yet, fast forward 48 hours and it feels like it's over.
11 points with 12 games for Liverpool. It's done. 11 points for Liverpool. 11 games for Liverpool, 12 for Arsenal. It's done.
They've got a game in hand. It's worth saying. But I think Arsenal, if they win every game left, get to 89. I think I've got that right. And if Liverpool only averaged 2 points per game for the rest of the season, and they're well in excess of that so far, then that would put them on 86. Like it needs that sort of drop off. Liverpool got 7 of their last 11 at home.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's done. It's done.
And there aren't across those home games. I think obviously Newcastle is a challenge now. I'm sure Everton will give them a challenge in 30. But there's not anyone you'd look at there and think, oh, I think they'll go to Liverpool and win. There isn't. So Arsenal can ill afford any more mistakes. And I'll be honest, I think there's every chance they'll get beat at Forest on Wednesday, because where they're going to suffer here at the moment is at the top end. They're obviously missing a kind of X factor, a Saka, or even direct pace of, say, a Martinelli, right? So Forest, I know they looked quite open yesterday, but the City ground against an opponent like Arsenal, going to be very well drilled. They'll defend the penalty area. They'll let Arsenal do all their horseshoe stuff around the box, and they'll sit in and they'll be happy with that, and they'll know Hudson-Odoi, Elanga, Gibbs-White, whoever they play it on the break, they can cause some damage. I think there's every chance Forest will beat Arsenal this midweek.
Yeah, I agree.
And you know me, I don't often sit here and go, I think Arsenal lose the next game, because I tend to go on the defensive side. Yeah, I can see that being 1-0 Forest on Wednesday night. Nwaneri, by the way, was just a fatigue-related substitution, so he's absolutely fine. I know, looking on socials, there was a lot of criticism of Martin Odegaard's performance from Arsenal fans, and that's the one that they really need to step up at the moment, obviously in the absence of Saka and Martinelli, who we're almost certainly not going to see till the other side of the international break. Trossard, he's fine as an asset if you're on. But I think actually, even though they're playing 29, you're arguably looking at a few others here, aren't you? There's so many teams with a couple of good fixtures. And even though like, Forest, United, Chelsea, it's not a terrible run. But then Fulham, Everton on the other side as well. They don't scream like, oh, I think Arsenal are going to win any of them 4-0 or anything. They don't.
Nah,
To be
until they
honest,
get players back, not
still play
interested.
that period, I think.
Yeah, until they get
Until, yeah,
players back, not interested. Not
it
interested.
is. I'm sorry, guys. It is massively damaging when your best footballers are not available, and Arsenal are suffering from it at the moment. They will obviously be having their inquest in terms of why was nothing done in January, but it is hindsighty in terms of the Martinelli and
Yeah, it's
Jesus and Havertz injuries.
and
Although
also
Jesus they knew before the end of the
we
window.
were praising them for like don't just if you can't get the right player, don't just buy any player
Yeah.
as well at the end of the transfer window. So we can't be hypocritical and then turn around and
But
say you should have got someone.
they also knew there was a massive opportunity here. That
There was
highly likely does look like it's gone now. Would you consider benching a Gabriel this week,
no,
subject to what you've got?
no, no.
No, same thing. I still play it, I think.
Yeah. Right, Bournemouth nil, Wolves 1. Obviously, a game that was affected by the Zabani red card. From what I could see on the Sofa score, where the periods of play were and stuff, Bournemouth had the majority of the play up until the red card. And then after that, it kind of evened out a little bit. And Wolves have ended up with more big chances, more shots, and ultimately the 1-0 victory.
The red card obviously has a huge bearing on this. I think it's correct. I think it's unlucky. I don't think Zabani means to do 8 Nori at all. But I think I've seen a lot of people using the term reckless. Reckless is not a red card. But for me, it's out of control. It's out of control because people are saying, oh, he's unlucky. He's gone over the top of the ball. Well, at that point, because you've gone over the top of the ball, and I know he plays the ball and then goes over, but that's out of control. And therefore you're endangering opponents. I think it's right. It's just unfortunate where the contact is made. Aiton he really could have snapped his leg. So for me, red card is correct. He will be a massive loss for Bournemouth against across the next couple because him and Howson have got a great relationship. I presume probably Hill will go into centre back and you'll probably have Cook cover at right back. It's going to be really amusing when Dango Utara goes and plays at right back with Evan Nilsson back. But I think point being that definitely makes Bournemouth's next 2 away games, Brighton and Tottenham, a lot more difficult if Zabani is going to be unavailable. He's a 2-game league ban, obviously, because he'll miss the FA Cup game against the same opponent this coming weekend.
Does it make Bournemouth now avoid, don't bother adding any more? Like we've kind of had the run. If you're now going to their midfielders, it's maybe a bit late with Evan
I
Nielsen
think
back.
now because we don't know where we stand with that. I think now it's probably wait till 29 again. I don't mind if you then come back around Brentford at home, Ipswich at home. I
Yeah, and
think
then West
Brighton
Ham.
and
Yeah,
Tottenham away is probably can you
just
look at
avoid now.
something else? Or if you're aiming towards it, you've just let what Wolves go and who was the game before was a good fixture before as well. I forget. But
We'll tell you in a second.
I'd probably wait now for 29 to get the
Saints.
decision right. Yeah, Southampton, obviously. So you've let Southampton and Wolves go, and now you're going to go and attack. But I
Yep.
get it. There'll be people with like Rogers thinking, like, shit, I need to move that on potentially. And the Bournemouth lads will still appeal. If that's what you want, fine. But I would rather, I think most people came back for it now for 29. The midfield options in 29 specifically aren't great. So I think you'd rather make the right decision. And Evan Nilsson being back on the bench was a big shock. Andoni Iraola spoke about him quite a bit on Friday. And was like, yeah, he's doing really well. He's going to be back soon. I think the word was better, sooner than expected, is what he said. But we never knew what the exact expected was. We thought it was probably going to be just after the international break. He's obviously back on the bench. He wasn't used, interestingly, despite the fact they were obviously chasing a goal. But I presume they didn't want to put him onto a situation where they were a man short and ask him
Yep.
to potentially put too much intense running in. So I would assume he's on the bench again against Brighton. He may be back in the team for the Tottenham game. And I joke about Utara playing at right back. I don't think that would happen. But I watched Dango Utara play left back at Tottenham last season and do incredibly well in that position when Milos Kerkez was unavailable. So I know that he could cover there in an emergency. Would definitely not be buying Utara at this stage. What I would say is for those who are on, I don't think you panic. I think you sit there, take your information. I would be surprised if he didn't start as the 9 tomorrow night, but it might be one where people are now looking at benching that potentially. Clivert was the one of the attacking ones that came off early. Again, with Tavernier obviously coming back in for Brooks, we know Sinistera's close as well in terms of being involved properly. Semenyo will be your safest one. But again, I think you're probably waiting for 29 now, taking the information over the next couple. If you're on, there's no need to panic.
Move it. Yeah.
I still think Kepa would be one. We'll offer a solution for those who, for some reason, feel like they need a goalkeeper to carry through for a number of weeks. But yeah, I think it's wait for 29. Whereas Wolves, time to attack.
Was last week.
Hindsight. No, yeah. Fulham at home doesn't kind of sound the alarms as like outstanding fixtures, but it is at Molineux, and the run now up till game week 34 is outstanding. Home games against Fulham, Everton, West Ham, Tottenham, and Leicester. Trips to Southampton, Ipswich, and Manchester United, which is in 33. So whatever you've got there, I know it's United, but you may even be comfortable benching it because you've got doublers in that week potentially. Wolves obviously could still be a doubler themselves. They'll need to win at Bournemouth again this weekend to make that a possibility. So Cunha, as we've kind of been highlighting.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, Cunha is, he's obviously had a price rise last week. He's at 6.9, but he's more than gettable. Who's the second and third on the Wolves list?
There isn't.
Okay, so it's just the one.
No, genuinely, there isn't.
Attack them, but there is no other players worth getting.
I think people will look, so I'll cover this briefly. Aït-Nouri would be the one. All I'd note on Aït-Nouri is he did come off with about 10 minutes to go, and I don't know if it's even an impact of the Zabani injury. So keep an eye on that. I don't think there's any concern. I would be tempted not to buy Aït-Nouri this week, though. See what Vitor Pereira says. Remember, they obviously play tomorrow night, so hopefully you'll get, and by the time you listen to this, you may have a press conference from Pereira on Aït-Nouri. But it's surprising that he got taken off under the circumstance. I'd be aware of that. The other defensive guys, Agbadou would have been interesting, but he's injured. He's out for a couple of weeks. We might have looked at Jigger, but they brought Santiago Bueno into the team at the weekend. I'm not buying Toti Gomez or Matt Doherty. The goalkeeper, he's doing okay at the moment, Jose Sarr, and I know he's cheaper than a lot of other goalkeepers. I would be very conscious that that could change at some point if he has a bad game. So I wouldn't be chasing that. The likes of Bellegarde and stuff are no interest. And if you're thinking about Manetzi playing OOP up front at the moment, well, Strand Larsen came on at halftime, so he's back. I wouldn't want to go down Cunha, Strand Larsen. I think you and I learned earlier in the season, pay the extra for Cunha.
So, all day long.
Cunha, and then keep an eye on Aït-Nouri. And despite the fact the fixtures are so good, I probably wouldn't consider a third.
Cool. Let's talk about Fulham, Crystal Palace. We said we were going to keep this pod snappy, James, and we're rabbiting on about all of them. Go on. Fulham, Palace. Bad day at the office for Fulham.
Yeah.
No big chances.
XG of nothing, essentially.
Yeah, 0.2. Yeah, it happens sometimes. They come off the back of two good results. So, it is a competitive league, is the Premier League. So it can happen to anyone. It doesn't make me any kind of less likely that they could go to Wolves and get something at the weekend,
Palace joint third best away record in the league now.
Cool.
Which, by the way, just for context, is with Bournemouth.
Okay.
You'd obviously have the two away games coming up now. Arsenal and Liverpool, the only two with better away records than those two teams.
And Salah's got a better away record than all of them put together.
Well, Salah has a better away record than every player has in home and away games. You know that factually, don't you?
Yeah.
He's got more points in away games than everybody's got.
I bet you, how many, he's probably scored more away goals than half the teams in the league.
We talk about Mo. But actually, to be honest, running out words to even, better just let him do his talking, man. It's phenomenal. Yeah. Anyway, that's well off topic. Bad day at the office for Fulham. Marcus Silva looked particularly disappointed. They've had a number of instances this year, Fulham, particularly in home games, where I think they've had a real opportunity to put themselves right amongst it in contention for European games, and they've pissed him off. They drew at home to Southampton, they drew at home to Ipswich. They've not played well at the weekend. Failed to create big chances in the game.
I was looking at the game they played against us where it was 3-2, and I was like, I didn't even remember it. And I was like, oh yeah, that's the game where they threw 3 balls in the back of their own net by making stupid defensive mistakes as well. If you remember Leno and what have you, yeah, frustrating. Where you look at those and you think, what if the ifs and buts might be maybes? What if we'd have just turned up here or not made a mistake there? But at the end of the day, they're still punching above their weight. They're doing all right.
Oh, no, no, no. There's no criticism of an
You know,
incredible season. He's a great manager. We spoke last week with Lewis James on COTC. I asked him, did he think it was disrespectful that some people were beginning to call them Marco Silva's band of misfits? Because they're all like a group of players who feel like they've been rejected somewhere else or moved on.
Yeah,
No, no, no. They're doing incredible, right? Smith Rowe got injured. So I would imagine Pereira will probably come into the team against Wolves. As said earlier, I wouldn't be surprised if Wolves turn them over actually, but they're very capable of going there and winning themselves. I think if you're on any Fulham, you're probably sticking on it at the moment. There's no need to panic in the build up to 29, but I don't think you're adding anything new this week, even though the Wolves fixture may appeal. Tottenham have obviously found a little bit of form heading to that game 29. It's worth saying that's 3 days after Tottenham's Europa last 16 second leg. Which means short turnaround for Tottenham, and they're better off with longer turnarounds, as we'll speak about in a second. For Palace, I think the standout for the weekend is, like I said, Eze looks much more back on it. We know he's been carrying this problem since mid-December. He looked free. He looked happy. The happiest I've seen him look on a pitch for a while. He had a shot in the first half, and you know that kind of cheeky grimace, not grimace, cheeky grin he's got on his face. He's like, I know how good I am. And like I'm about to take it up a level. I saw someone put a comment last week about Eze as well about, yeah, you watch when the weather gets better. Not saying he's a player that doesn't turn up in winter, but he's just a bit happier when the weather's a bit better.
Yeah,
it could be a thing, and the temperature for those overseas has warmed up quite a bit over the last 3 or 4 days. Coincidental?
thank God.
I don't know. Mateta's so close to another goal here, fractionally offside, takes it absolutely brilliantly. I think Palace, is that 4-2-0 away wins in a row now?
1, 2, 3.
Was it 5?
4. It was 1-1 before that. It's Leicester, West Ham, Manchester United, Fulham. 4-2-0 away wins in a row. That's incredible.
Outstanding, considering they were, go back to sort of October time as people questioning Oliver Glasner. That's the last time we lost an away game was at Nottingham Forest, and he shouldn't have lost that, right? Because Dean Henderson should have saved the shot from Chris Wood, who never gets 9 points.
So people free hitting in 29, you'd still say steaming into them. Villa at home, Ipswich at home, blank, then Southampton away. Three good fixtures out of the next 4. If you're free hitting in 29, still attackable, right?
Yeah, and there are 4 outstanding assets, I think, for Palace if you are under that circumstance of free hitting in 29. And I think
bet I can guess 3 of them: Eze, Mateta, Munoz.
Yeah, obviously.
The 4th, are you going to go with the keeper, Henderson?
Yeah, even though I'm not a massive fan of him, it's just the fact that I think with let me give an example. For me, wildcarding, if I wildcard in 29, I want to put a keeper on the bench that blanks, who could double later, right? Really?
Yeah.
So bearing in mind 32, it's then a choice of Henderson or Pope, isn't it? I don't want to waste a Newcastle spot on Pope.
No, and he's expensive.
But I don't mind wasting a Palace spot maybe on Henderson.
Yeah.
So there's every chance Henderson comes with me. Obviously, they could double 32, 33. It's worth saying those fixtures over 32, 33 or 34 if they play aren't great. They're rough. And one of the things we should note about their away form this season, it's really good, as said, joint best, third best in the league. And the next away game is Southampton in 30. So you think there's more to come. But then their final away games is what? City, Newcastle, Arsenal, Tottenham in 36, and they finish at Liverpool 38. So in terms of away games left after Southampton, the final 5 are really rough in terms of away games. They're doing great. Yeah, Eze, I think, comes back into the thinking, I think, after that performance at the weekend. Minutes might get managed a little bit on Tuesday, but I'm pretty confident he'll start. Mateta, if you're free hitting in 29, is a great pickup. Great pickup, and it's similar with Munoz as well.
Yep.
I would pay the extra for Munoz over any of the other defensive guys.
Ipswich 1, Tottenham 4. Comfortable win in the end, I think, from what I saw or heard as well. The first kind of 10 minutes or so, Ipswich were at it. And then after that, it was easy street for Tottenham. And you generally controlled the game and racked up the goals and come back down the A14 with all of the 3 points. Happy as Larry.
I bumped into Amber Redmond on the way back.
Oh, nice.
Amber, who are some of our old listeners remember, the best person ever to put questions in for the podcast. You know, none of
Correct.
that non-FPL shit. And I told her, we need more questions, please, Amber. I felt sorry for her and I feel sorry for Ipswich and I feel sorry for me. I feel sorry for me that I'm not going back there next season because that is an absolutely brilliant away day. Brilliant. The ground's right next to the stadium. You got a pub right next to
The
the
ground
station.
next to the
Sorry,
station.
the
Yeah, I
pub.
get
You
it.
got a pub for away fans right next to the station.
He's still
Massive
drunk from
garden.
Saturday.
No, I didn't drink too much. The
Oh,
away end
perfect.
is fantastic. I was row 7, pretty much on the halfway line, upper tier. Absolutely brilliant spot. Loved it there. What a brilliant away day that is. But I can't see
See Ed
myself going
Sheeran?
back there next year. Wasn't looking for him to be honest. I
Okay,
saw Rupert
fair play.
Grint though
Okay.
on the telly. He was sitting next to him, wasn't he? They started. I mean, how they never scored in the first minute, by the way, I have no idea. Can't comprehend how that happened that they didn't score. And you're right. I mean, Delap, in theory, could have had a hat trick after 6 minutes.
Yeah.
What a handful he is. And he had Archie Gray on toast in that period. And then Archie Gray learnt his lessons a little bit and got used to it a bit more. So Delap clearly was just pulling on to him all the time. What I like about them is to try and play out. And if it doesn't work, they can obviously go direct into the lap, so they can vary their play. The problem is when they're playing out, I don't think they're quite good enough. And if a team comes and presses properly, like mine is very capable of doing, turnovers can happen. And if you get at them defensively, they are vulnerable. You saw that particularly, obviously, when Man City went there and got 6. Truthfully, I think the game's pretty even. So like if Ipswich had at 2-1, if they'd had equalised, I couldn't have said, "Oh, you don't deserve that." Nowhere at all. So the scoreline was really, really harsh on them.
I mean,
I
a
think,
couple of goals of yours came quite late, right?
yeah,
Or
where
late-ish.
where they're better than the other two down there is in Delap. They've got a player who's very capable. I think he should be in the next England squad, by the way. He's on 8 yellow cards though, so they might lose him for a couple of important games. I mean, imagine they lost him for Wolves at home, which is game week 31. I mean, for them to have any chance of staying up, I tell you now, they have to win that football match.
Yep.
But by the time you get there, when you look at what's next, United away, Palace away, Bournemouth away, and Forest at home, it might be too late. But if Delap's suspended for that, I wouldn't see them beating Wolves. Defensively, not strong enough, I'm afraid to say. But they do have more variation than the other two. For my team, we're healing. I said that earlier. I think that's the best way to say it at the moment. We're healing. We're not right yet, but we're healing. We're getting players back. We're getting a bit better. Couple of really nice goals from Brennan Johnson. Again, it was a planned hour for him and Udogi, so that's a couple of players back into the team that we didn't have. It's all helpful. Couple of really good performers. I thought Kevin Danso, left-sided centre back, had a really uncomfortable first quarter of the game, but got much better as longer it went on. Jed was great again. Thought he was going to cry when he scored. Actually, it was really nice. Played right back first hour, then went to left back for the last half hour. Another one from nowhere might find himself with an England call up in the near future. It's not like we're blessed with a huge number of left backs beyond Lewis Hall, basically, at the moment. So he might
Oh, it
get a
talks
look
about
in.
Lewis Potter.
I think we're now, yeah, I wouldn't hate it. We're now at a stage of thinking Bergvall is first choice. That's not relevant, I think, to buy for fantasy. But I guess if you are looking for a body for 29, he is cheap and he looks like he's going to keep playing. The problem with the Tottenham players, I keep saying, is the priority is going to be the Europa. So if he's part of the best 11 now, he's playing the Thursday nights. So he might not start at Fulham in 29. And I think you'd still buy Nwaneri over him if you did need that sort of enabling player at the moment. But yeah, he's beginning to glide past players. He's going to be a super player. Madison, no start this week. It seems like it might have been planned, I think, partly to give Johnson the minutes. And there's been a theme prior to the injuries where it was normally, in terms of Tottenham setup, one of Madison or Johnson. And then Kulusevski kind of fills in for whichever one who doesn't play. Matisse Tell up front, he's not an option right now. and I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't even start on Wednesday. Way off it, unfortunately. I don't see a number nine there for me. I see a winger. I see a winger playing number nine at the moment. And I think that's more potentially a threat for Sonny in future weeks. However, he was really good Sunday, Sonny. You know, I'm heavily critical of
Mm.
him. Big moments, two big assists, going direct with his running in behind and then attacking and taking his man on. He really is a player who I think knows what he can and can't do now. And I also have a little bit of sympathy with him where I watched him. We played a game against Elfsborg. I don't know if you and I did the podcast the next day, and he only played 45 minutes and it was obviously planned. And he was like old Sonny that night. And I realized he's playing against like a Swedish team, with all due respect to them. But he looked like, I was like, wow, where's my Sonny been? And this, he was much better again. And I think it was probably planned. There's probably planning in the place now that he's not going to play 90 minutes much anymore. And that's
Mm.
going to be beneficial for him. So if he's playing 70 or if he's playing like the last half hour, you're going to get a better version of him rather than expect him to be a 90-minute man. Because I think he's learned to adapt his body to think, well, I've got to go to 90 minutes. Maybe he's just not it anymore. But yeah, two really good assists from him. Could have scored as well. Much better from Sonny. Really pleased with that. And at the moment, it would be Sonny over Tell on the left. I have an inkling that he might play Kulusevski as a false nine on Wednesday. It's not to say he will, but I think I can see it maybe being kind of similar to how Liverpool set up yesterday with like Kulusevski and Maddison as tens, Johnson and Son high. I can see Tottenham might go for a similar approach with that. But truthfully, we are healing. You probably shouldn't invest for fantasy.
I just think City, Bournemouth at home, Fulham after that. The fixtures are not like steam into fixtures at all, really.
Ironically, if you did want a Tottenham asset at the moment, the one to go for is
Ange.
Postecoglou. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I agree.
unbelievably. It is. They never sang his name during the whole game, Such Ange.
Wow.
We'll speak about it a bit more on Wednesday.
Good, good. Let's talk about Southampton nil, Brighton 4. Again, only caught bits of highlights on this, but when you look at the stats, 10 big chances for Brighton,
Yeah.
4 goals, utter domination. 0.13 xg for Southampton.
I mean, how many good saves has Ramsdale had to make?
Yeah.
Let's start with them first because there's more to talk about here from Brighton, obviously. I have sympathy that they lost Jan Bednarek quite early in the game after, I think it's 8 minutes or so, he came off injured. And Jack Stevens was only a substitute, and I presume not quite ready yet because it wasn't used. And they've also been missing Harwood Bellis, and they're a team that's got defensive problems anyway. Juric played Joe Aribo as left-sided centre back. Nobody had that on the bingo card at the weekend. Don't see that. It feels like he did something to try and compensate to get as many of the attacking players he wants in the team. So he played Fernandes in a deeper position, which allowed Diblin to come back in the team. And I think he wants Sulemana in the team as well. And he played Archer as a nine. So it's a very offensive team. But obviously, then once you go a goal back, not great. You're looking at some of them instances in the second half where like Aribo's last man. I'm like, I've never seen him play here. And I think he was great in midfield with Agoshikuwa in the game I watched at Manchester United. So I don't know if there was an element of he got picked there because of a bit more pace than some of the others. And Brighton obviously have some really quick attackers. It didn't work. I don't know if we'll see that experiment again. For Southampton, João Pedro played. None of us had the information about Danny Welbeck's injury, as far as I'm aware. On Friday, we didn't have information on Joel Veltman either. Jack Hinchwood covered at right back. For those who sold or benched João Pedro this week, I don't think you did wrong because I don't think he would have played if Welbeck was fit.
The mistake with João Pedro is still owning him.
Maybe celebrating this one, but what kind of shit has it been over the last few months? It's
Yeah.
the irony is so many of us bought him before they played Southampton last time as well. There'll be people who bought him the last time they played Southampton. He did nothing, have held all this time and then benched him for this one, thinking that he wouldn't play. I think he still falls into the category of potential sell actually. If you
Uh,
can move that on to
yeah,
like a
yeah.
Mateta or a Cunha, I'd still be considering that actually. I don't know the status of Welbeck. I think he's really important to the way they play. Really importantly, Jorginho Rutter's playing really well. And Mitoma and Minter have both contributed attacking returns. Again, I think that's their strongest wide player combination. Mitoma's on a little bit of a run, actually. Did kind of
I think it's
half-heartedly.
four returns in the last six.
I did.
Four games of the last six he's
I did
returned.
glance at him for as a potential option for me for the next two, but I think my other options on the fixtures are
Better.
stronger. So think, yes, good return for João Pedro at the weekend. Really nice finish for the goal. Did you see the Minter miss, by the way, where
I didn't.
he's put Ramsdale and Walker Peters on his bum, and because he's got absolutely no right foot, he tries to just drag it round with his left foot and doesn't score. He's a good player though. They've got themselves right back in contention. They must be sick, Brighton fans. I think the amount a little bit like Fulham, but I think more so in their case. They had that brilliant run of fixtures where they went that whole spell without winning. If they'd have won even a couple over that spell, it'd be so much in contention for Champions League. And they
Bournemouth are in
are anyway.
sixth. How many points behind? Three,
What's that, sorry?
James. Bournemouth are in sixth.
Yeah, they're
Brighton in
Brighton
ninth.
three behind.
Only 3 points and four behind Newcastle in
They're four
fifth.
behind City.
That's true as well. Newcastle City on the same points.
They've only lost 6 games all season. Brighton.
That's crazy.
There's only two teams lost more. It's Arsenal, less. Sorry, it's Arsenal and Liverpool. So yeah, Brighton are third for defeats so far this season. They've got a strong record, by the way, in some of the more difficult games this season. But it's in the easier fixtures that they've kind of really let themselves down.
At home as well, quite often.
So in fixtures against the other 12, I got this tracked on my planner. So the other 12 being not the greedy six plus Villa Newcastle. They're tracking at 1.27 points per game. But in games against the big eight, if you will, they're 1.57 points per game. It's easy to identify where they've cocked up, if you will. But that
Correct.
means with some of the tougher fixtures they've got, they could well do well. I mean, they picked that lineup, or at least with those two wide players, away to City in 29. Don't think that they won't give City problems, because they will.
Let's talk about Aston Villa 2, Chelsea 1. Asensio, James, 6 million midfielder. He's not on your radar then if you're going Bowen or on Kunku
Nah,
or on Bomo.
wouldn't make any sense. I mean, Palace and Brentford away, like they're reasonable, but they don't stand out massively. And then obviously, if I did carry through, they blank anyway. So would I be adding Asensio to Rodgers or instead of him? Nah, Rodgers will stay, and the plan for me with Rodgers would be fair sub for the next couple. Obviously, he's played as the 10 here, so that's an impact to Rodgers. And they have a lot of cooks in that area now. So you've got Asensio, you've got Rodgers, you've got Ramsey, you've obviously got Rashford can play wide, you've got Marlon can play wide. When Onana or Kamara are back, they can push Tielemans or McGinn into a higher position as well. So a lot of options, which is really good for them, obviously, coming into a period where the Champions League will restart. We've got a very winnable tie against Bruges. It's worth saying that doesn't make them better in terms of fantasy assets. And also, there's every chance they'll have a quarter final around the period looking further ahead. So they could have their quarter final would be either side of them playing Southampton in 32. Yeah, I mean, even your likes of Watkins and Rodgers and stuff might not play that game. I suspect Rodgers won't start tomorrow night at Palace. And I suspected that before the weekend when I was doing my team news stream and I was looking ahead at the next week. And I was thinking, you know what? Villa's turnaround here is so rough because they played Liverpool Wednesday, Chelsea Saturday, two intense games, Palace Tuesday. Then they've got Cardiff
Yep.
Friday in the FA Cup as well. Now, again, Cardiff is obviously the one you'd look at to rotate, but just even still, Wednesday Liverpool, Saturday Chelsea, Tuesday Palace is rough. Don't think you could look at any attacking player and think, well, he'll start all those games. And that's why I didn't think Rashford would start on Saturday. I imagine Rashford does start on Tuesday, so someone else is coming out. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Asensio, Suj.
Yeah, true. Rashford popped up with 2 assists. So that's 3 and 3 now since he's moved.
Yep. Looks good at the moment.
And Anthony's scoring goals at Betis. So, yeah, we'll talk about Man United, shall we?
No, let's not talk about Manchester United.
They're-
Listen,
they're-
we can all look at Marcus Rashford. One of the things that struck me, and I didn't watch all the games Saturday because I was on my way back from Ipswich, but one of the things that did strike me watching more of the highlights of it was that Villa have so much pace around him. I think that's really helpful. So you're looking around, he's got like Asensio, obviously, central is not so much a pace player. You've got Rodgers on the outside, you've got Watkins up front. They can bring Ramsey on. They've got good ball carriers. They've all got
Yeah,
good
yeah.
legs and energy in the team. Whereas you look at
Even
United and it's
Cash and
like
Dean get forward,
Rashford and
and
Garnacho.
yeah, yeah,
Or Matson's obviously played left back here,
yeah.
has offered real support. That's a quick player as well. So you've got real kind of pace and dynamism in Villa. And I think the fact that he's got that around him is good for him. And it also allows him to take on a more of a, I think, a creative role because Rashford does have, it's got, we know Rashford can play like 45-yard diagonals and stuff, right? He's rare as a forward that has that in his locker. So if people are making runs in front, someone like Watkins is such a great runner. Watkins will run knowing that Rashford could find him. So people were like, oh shit, I want to get tight because I don't want you to have the space to play. And he's like, you get too tight, I'll do you. So it just feels like a really good fit at the moment. You shouldn't overlook the fact he's been shit at Manchester United for a long time. So I understand why Manchester United moved it on, right? He wouldn't be playing at Manchester United.
No,
That's
I.
maybe one to question the
So,
manager on. But listen, he's not been good for United for a good time. He needed a change in his career. Yeah, looks good. I wouldn't be buying him for fantasy at the moment. Wouldn't buy any Villa player for fantasy at the moment because what I just said. Great
what about
result.
Chelsea? Have got two great fixtures coming up though.
Chelsea don't have two great fixtures now, so Chelsea have the two best
Best fixtures
fixtures.
in the league.
Arguably, could only be better in a weird way if you were away to the two teams. Might even be
Yeah.
better at the moment. Sounds weird, but it could be the case.
So you've talked about Palmer's kind of a given and his ownership so high anyway. You're looking at Nkunku. No thoughts for any of the others? Like Enzo popped up with a goal again. He was flavour of the month a while ago, and he's only 4.7. So even if you had him and then had to bench him and leave it be, it's more stomachable than the likes of an Nkunku. Neto, we think will play because of the other injuries that they're carrying.
So played with like Neto basically as the nine at the weekend, and Kunku left, Palmer more to the right, Fernandez in a much more advanced role. Now, if Fernandez was to play there again, argue and say that's better than Kunku.
Yeah,
Neto, I can't be having. I don't mind it as a punt because that's what I'm doing from Kunku. But I just look at the two of them and honestly, I just look at it and think, you said now one of them two is getting a hat trick. It's Nkunku over
Nkunku.
Neto. I don't see Neto being explosive. Get me a return? Yeah, cool. Explosiveness in terms of returns, don't see him being that sort of player, even if he's more central than Nkunku. And Nkunku got a lot of his massive returns for Leipzig coming off this position. So it might even be that they're trying to find something to get something out of him. I do also think, by the way, there's every chance Nkunku won't play. It could be Sancho left, Neto nine again, Palmer right, and Nkunku's a substitute. Yeah, do you know what? I think Nkunku as a substitute against this sort of opposition isn't. It's not
The worst.
terrible. I'm not that bothered. I'm really not. One thing about 28, it's worth saying, they're playing Copenhagen in the Conference League on the Thursday before playing Leicester on the Sunday. And they will have to pick a pretty strong team, I think, in Copenhagen. That's between now and the final. That's the toughest game they'll have. Honestly, whoever they can play in the quarterfinal, semi-final will be easier, I think, than what they'll have going specifically to Copenhagen next Thursday. If you look at their bench at the weekend, it looks weak. So to say now that whatever you get for Chelsea would definitively start against Leicester in 28, other than Palmer, doubt it, to be honest. So I'm looking at it as just it's real punty. I'm actually aware buying Nkunku, I might not even get started out of him, Suj.
Yep.
But I'll definitely get minutes out of him against two teams who will already be well beat. And I'm convinced of that, despite the fact Chelsea have their issues, got way too much quality for opponents like this. And I think they'll win both games very, very easily. I wouldn't be surprised we're talking 4 or 5 nils in these games. So I'm happy to go and punt Nkunku particularly because that's the one I think could have a massive return. With Fernandez, he could easily just sits back alongside Casado in a game like this where they're going to have more of the ball and they want to distribute in a different way. In terms of like Gusto, James obviously played midfield in this one. Is it one or the other again this midweek? Does James now get a rest or does James go back to right back? Defensively, obviously Chalobah went off injured really early. So if you do want something really short term, Adebayo at 4.2, you'll probably get a couple of games out of. I'm on Colwill. So now he's useful for me for these next two. I will start him. He's the one that will be kind of the guarantee for the minutes because I think even with Cucurella, they could play James Augusto at left back.
Yep.
So it's Palmer, Colwell, your safest one, and anything else is punting, the goalkeeper's not better than Sanchez. So I certainly wouldn't be investing in that either. I feel like it's if I was planning to run through Suj and I'm sitting there with Palmer and Colwell and I'm thinking, yeah, I'm going to decide to wild card in 34. I don't buy Chelsea. I think I'll leave it be. Because the other thing you have to factor running through is all these guys are injured, are all predicted back after the international break. So Lavia is a huge player for them. Jackson to come back, Madueke to come back, right? So anything you kind of punted, it's like, well, what's the impact for you on the other side? Now, if you want to set that and you go, right, I'm going to punt Nkunku till after the break, he'll cover me 29, even though it's a shit fixture at Arsenal. And you go, yeah, I'm going to set it up to go Nkunku to Eze in 30. Fine. If you commit to any of these Nkunku's Netos, I think you want to know what your exit strategy is. Mine is probably to wildcard in 29.
Okay. Newcastle 4, Nottingham Forest 3. Like you said, a game of two halves where Newcastle were clearly dominant in the first. They racked up a 2.9 XG, 2.7 of that was in the first half, and they barely had a sniff in the second half, excuse me, whereas Nottingham Forest was the exact opposite, and they racked up 4 big chances in the second half, James. Could have gone on to get a draw out of it.
It really could have.
But didn't, so...
Yeah, it wasn't quite a 4-3 game because there was clear dominance in this. Can I just say, in case I forget to say it, Alexander Isak's penalty, I think, is one of my favourite ever penalties.
Lucky. I don't know, lucky. It sells
No. Forget the luck here, right? Tell me a penalty you can ever think of where the goalkeeper has landed in the back of the net.
No, there probably is, but there's
That's
very
magnificent.
Few.
Please, can someone highlight to me examples where goalkeepers have faced a penalty and ended up in the back of the net? That's nearly impossible, mate.
Yeah.
I love it. That's a great penalty. Brilliant.
But Sells could have just easily kept it out. He wasn't far off keeping it out, mate.
It's worth saying it would have got retaken anyway. It was off his line,
Why?
mate. It was off his
Who
line.
Sells was?
Yeah, it was off his line. Yeah, if he had saved it, it would have got retaken. Another couple of goals for Isak, obviously. Would you consider benching him at all this week away to Liverpool?
No.
Just too good?
Yeah, if anyone's going to get anything out of it, it is going to be him. Like, they are an intense team, and they showed that in the first half. If they're going to go at Liverpool, they'll go at Liverpool. But yeah, he's not benchable, but basically every other Newcastle player is.
Yeah, which includes Gordon. So, I mean, effective my -4 here basically is going to be probably Bowen in for Gordon because it's not Bowen to Nkunku. I need to go Ammo to Nkunku. I can't afford it the other way around. So the effective hit is Gordon to Bowen -4. And obviously the two play each other in 28. That's the only thing that's off-putting. But if I just look at it in terms of Gordon going to Liverpool, Bowen at home to Leicester, is that worth the hit right here, right now? And do I think Bowen might outperform him next week as well? Yes. I wouldn't actually even be that shocked if Anthony Gordon didn't start on Wednesday. I think that's a possibility as well. Again, they'll be thinking mostly about the final, I think. And I don't think they'll want to give too much away to Liverpool this midweek. I think they'll look at it as a free swing. They won't. I'm almost certain they won't play on Wednesday the same way they play in the final.
Yep.
So I wouldn't be surprised if they do something different, which is like, yeah, right, Harvey Barnes is going to play on the left. I don't give Trent a recent. This is what Gordon looks like. Keep him out your thinking, make him stress about it. So I think they might do something different on Wednesday night. So I think Gordon would be a benchable player this week unlike Isak. Lewis Hall is obviously benchable this week. Is that anything other than Isak? I can't think of many circumstances where it would be like bench Isak.
No.
There will be some crazy midfields out there. And I guess there'll be people maybe moving Rodgers to people like Fernandes this week. I'd still pick Isak, I think.
Yeah.
Even though it'd be contradictory for those who have got Trent. For Forest, as said, I think they might do quite well against Arsenal on Wednesday night. And I've always maintained that if they got out the Man City game in 28 in the top 5, that I think they'll do it because their run of fixtures till the end is great. The fact they've lost the last 3 away games is a little bit alarming, but they can be really encouraged by this second half because I think at half time there was concerns that this would be like 6-7-1 or something. They just let the game get away from them so quickly. They went in front early on for a nice goal from Callum Hudson-Odoi where they won the ball really high. I'm not sure what Nick Pope's positioning is all about. But then once Newcastle equalised, I mean, we were in 10 minutes, it was 4-1, I think. The Wolves just caved in on them. And that's not the first time recently, right? They got absolutely destroyed at Bournemouth a few weeks ago as well. So I think they have that in them because they're such a structured team. If it goes wrong, we've now seen a couple of instances where it can go really wrong. But Forest don't have too many of these away games still to go. Villa away 31, but again, that could be Villa might have a Champions League quarter-final like 3 days later, for
Right.
example. So I just think the fixtures work out really nice for Forest in the near future. And I think Arsenal will City at home in the next two. Your timing of these fixtures is pretty decent. Atmosphere will be strong. I'm certainly not investing in Forest no, but I guess a little bit like with Isak. If you've got Chris Wood, you benching this week? There you go. There's a debate for you
No,
benching.
not at all.
Isak or Wood? Are you benching?
I'd bench Isak over Wood.
Would you?
I think so. It's a away game for Isak.
I
It's at
wouldn't.
home for.
If I had Wood and I saw his 9 points on the bench and knew he'd scored against Arsenal, that'd be enough for me. I'd be happy.
You'd be happy anyway. I get that. I get that. No, I'm playing both, so it's not a debate for me. Yeah, I think I would play Wood over Isak.
I think
We'll talk about Liverpool in a second, but I think I'd play Wood over Isak.
I think when we land to 29, I think Nico Williams will be interesting for people because that's now two. We mentioned it as a real concern about rotation. It's not now.
No.
He's cheaper than the others. So if people are looking for a defensive player, come 29, I think people look at that. And I think when we land 29, I think there'll be a lot of discussion around Elanga, Hudson-Odoi and Gibbs-White. Because I said, I think the options in 29 specifically aren't brilliant. But if you want a Forest attacker, it's still the main man up front.
Let's talk about Manchester City 0, Liverpool 2 to wrap, James. I mean, if you look at the stats, I mean, City dominated possession, completed so many more passes, and they kind of had control of the game without ever feel like this is Liverpool.
They had control. They didn't have control of the game. The control of the ball. Liverpool had control of the game.
That's what I mean. Like, it's a slightly different side of Liverpool we're seeing here, but they're just so flexible at the moment. It's like they've got an answer for every situation in every game. Whether they're ahead or they're chasing, they can turn the tempo up. They cannot. They're just game management is unbelievable at the moment. And with Salah, I briefly alluded to it, and I didn't want to go too early, but we will end up saying it's possibly the greatest Premier League season ever that a player's had.
I failed to see how anybody could vote for Footballer of the Year at the end of this season and vote for anybody else.
11 games still to go.
You?
Question is just how many.
Can he vote for himself?
It's the inevitability. When a goal alert for Liverpool comes up, you know it's Salah goal or Salah assist.
I think if he has to vote for someone else, he just shouldn't vote. To make sure he's got 100% of the vote. What a player, what a season.
64 goals scored, 40 of them he's contributed. And
what you're watching here is something generational in terms of his returns. I mean, what he's about to do here is it's going to be the highest ever goals and assists in the Premier League season combined, isn't it? I think.
Well, he's only got 4 or 5 more to go, and that's the top two were.
Is that it? Just 4 more?
4 or 5 more. The top 2 were 42 game seasons. It's only 4 more for a 38 game season.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I hope he gets to like the 20 assists and stuff as well. Yeah. Speechless.
Yeah.
And they work it so well from the system is working even better for him. I think that version of Liverpool that we saw yesterday in terms of their structure, I think that's what it will become next season.
It's interesting that I mean, someone asked Pep the question in the presser, right? Is this Liverpool better than Klopp's Liverpool? And he didn't answer it he's like, I've got too much respect for Klopp to be able to answer a question like that, which I totally understand. But it's a pretty valid question.
Klopp's
remember, Liverpool was rock and roll.
Yeah.
This Liverpool is rock and roll, classical music, hip hop. They can do it all.
But let's remember that Klopp's Liverpool finished second on 92 points and 97 points. Yeah. And Liverpool do not need to get to that total to win this league. So what's against you, I think is relevant as well, right? So I don't think that would be harsh to kind of talk down.
This Liverpool can get to 98
anyway.
Points if they win every game between now and the end of the season.
They won't because they don't need to.
Yeah, but even 92, 93, if they got to that, it's still
They
monster amount of points.
may well do that, but the blessing for Liverpool may well be further down the line that they might be looking at a Champions League semi-final against Real Madrid with the league title already won.
Mm.
And that is very relevant potentially for the end of this football season from a fantasy football perspective. So
Yep.
in a weird way, you're almost looking against them more than for them. The Southampton game in 28, because obviously I'm looking for like a midfielder to buy for 2 games. You think, well, just go Luis Diaz, James, right? I'd never mentioned him as a possible option. Or even Szoboszlai. We said at the start of the season, there will be a point where Szoboszlai or McAllister, one of them is going to look like a real option. And actually, Szoboszlai in that position, very interesting. So too Curtis Jones if he was going to play there regularly enough. But do we get a bit of rotation on Wednesday off the back of them playing Wednesday, Sunday? And the Southampton game in 28 now, they can put whatever team they want out, close their eyes, they'll win the game. And that now is
Yeah.
3 days after PSG and 3 days before PSG. There's only one player I know who's going to play in game at 28.
Mo Salah.
That's Virgil van Dijk.
Well, it's also true, yeah. But I
And
mean, Mo
Salah, and
Salah
Salah, and
is
Salah.
not been. I mean, I was blown away that he got subbed this game.
It was one.
It
That
was a
was an
92nd minute or
absolutely
something. I was shocked.
outstanding professional performance. I think, listen, we've been heavily critical of City this season, but with half hour to go, you're watching the game in absolutely no doubt that Liverpool were going to see it out. That is a huge
Yeah,
compliment to them to go somewhere like that. And I think, particularly discussions I had with Clayton over the last few months, where we looked at Liverpool's away games and saying, like, they've got a lot of tough ones left. And they've dropped some points in a few of them, right? Forest, Everton, Villa. But I think ultimately the 2 big wins we'll look back on was the Bournemouth win and obviously this one. So across that cluster of 5 really tough away games, didn't lose any of them. 9 points. And I realise that's effective to 3 wins and 2 defeats. But that was enough. That was kind of all it needed to be. Close enough to 2 points per game across those 5 tough away games. So yeah, it would be a capitulation from here for them not to win it. And when you look at what they've got left, no. You can't see it. There's 7 home games left out of 11.
that's not going to happen.
I think Newcastle was a challenge tomorrow night, but I think Newcastle physically and mentally had to put more into their game yesterday than they had to. I only really see Liverpool winning Wednesday. You can imagine the atmosphere at Anfield now. It just carried them over the line atmosphere, isn't it? They were, the cop was really nervous against Wolves. They were kind of hanging on. You could feel the
Yeah,
nerves begin to creep in. I think now the gap is enough that you don't have the nerves now.
yeah,
They could afford to lose tomorrow night, Wednesday night, couldn't they?
yeah,
Wouldn't
yeah,
be
yeah.
ideal. I think there's every chance this gap is going to be bigger at the end of this next game week, Such. For City, just to close, I'm very surprised by Guardiola's team selection. Savinho, De Bruyne, Marmoush, and Doku in front of Gonzalez, with Liverpool playing 2 10s.
Two attacking.
I think had Liverpool wanted to, they would have racked up a stupid score here. And I don't think they needed to. They were happy to sit on what they had and hope that they could expose City on the counter. I think if it had got to a stage of trading blows, I think Liverpool would have beat them anyway. They'd have had way too much in that midfield area for City. Nowhere near enough legs there. Marmoush is a great, talented individual. Kevin De Bruyne, I don't really want to talk about anymore. I told you, I don't feel right about it. Doku, lively as most dribbles completed in a Premier League game since the year dot. Created what? Nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
Nothing. Backline. I thought Kusanov did quite well, by the way. I was quite pleased because after that debut, it was like, oh, that was my first kind of proper look at him since. And I thought he did absolutely fine actually at right-sided centre back. Yeah, they have a huge rebuilding job to do. I mentioned earlier about their points per game. Because we have to remember with City, so they're full 44 points from 26, right? We should remember they started with 7 wins and 2 draws. What did I say it was? Such 21 points from the last 15, is it?
Yeah. 21 from 17. I think you said
Okay, yeah.
21 from 17, and it was
Um,
23 from 9 before
20,
that.
23 from 9, yeah. And also their record against that expected top eight from pre-season. They're only at 1 point per game. They have a major problem against anyone that can play with intensity. 4 days is enough for my team. It's every chance we'll turn them over on Wednesday night. I really think that they will qualify for the Champions League via the league positionings, only because their running is so good. I would not be surprised if they get beat by my team in 27, and I would not be surprised if they get beat at Forest in 28 either. The problems are still there. When you look at the teams that they beat since that first 9 games of the season, I'll read them out to you, Suj. So you've got Forest, they beat at home,
West Ham at home.
Leicester away, West Ham at home, Ipswich away, Chelsea at home, Newcastle at home. In terms of away games since those opening 9, the answer is Suj.
No one.
Not of any worth, really, mate. The only away games they've had since them opening 9, I'm sorry to say it, is Leicester and Ipswich.
Yeah.
If they're set up like that against my team, no doubt they'll have the capability to hurt, Doku versus Porro and stuff like this, dancing great, right? If we sit off a little bit like we did when we went up there and trounced them, we might trounce them again.
Looking forward to seeing it because, 115 charges and all that. That's a wrap of the games, James.
Harsh, kick a man when he's down.
No, it is. Life is life.
They're
James,
getting off, mate. I'm afraid to tell you.
I have been through all the questions that we had on Twitter, and we have literally covered off pretty much everything. There's a lot of Arsman related stuff, and also Jared Bowen. A few people asking whether Pedro or Gakpo to Cunha is the right person to sell. Gakpo or Pedro? Gakpo might still be useful. The people want to get Cunha. Gakpo might still be all right because if they're bringing him back in and maybe don't have him earmarked for the final, you want to rest Diaz for the final, you never know with Gakpo.
I think if he can, and it depends on the recovery, I think Slot will pick the same team against Newcastle. I'm not saying he can, but we would have looked at things like the last week previously and gone, there's no way Robertson's starting all 3, but he keeps taking him off early. He's obviously decided he does prefer Robertson to Shimikas. And I think in terms of the wide areas, I think Diaz and Salah have the best over the top running. So if you're playing with 2 10s, then I think that's the way I'll probably want to go again. So I don't think there's any guarantee Gakpo would come back into the team for Wednesday night. And again, if you're holding for Southampton, maybe on that basis he does play against Southampton. So he's definitely playing that one because maybe he doesn't start the 2 PSG games now. He's been really unlucky because he's had phenomenal last couple of months, really, Cody Gakpo. But I think that version of Liverpool with the 2 10s is the version that he wants to get to. And I think in the summer, I think he'll be targeting 10s rather than 9s. So I wouldn't be surprised to move on Nunez and he goes, right, well, if I have to need to play with a 9, it will be like Jota. And you can use Jota as a 10. When Jota plays, he drops short a lot more. Like neither Szoboszlai or Jones played as a 9 last night. So I think particularly in some of these bigger games, that's what he wants. And also you're getting the best version of Mo. You leave him high and wide, best you can.
Yeah.
He's always in a position when they win the ball back, bang, look for him. So, if I had Gakpo, I'd be strongly thinking like Cunha, Mateta, subject to what your strategy is, because that ultimately might make the decision there. If you're free hitting 29, probably prefer Mateta. If you're not, then Cunha's kind of obvious, isn't it?
Cool. James, what do the listeners have to look forward to for the rest of this week?
What have we got? What's today? Monday. Tomorrow is Clash of Correspondence, Manchester United versus Ipswich. Gary Robinson, Paul Court Allen. We'll get that out really early for you. Deadline stream for those on YouTube, 5 o'clock tomorrow as well. Clayton James show Wednesday. Thursday, Ask James is going to be Thursday. Clayton's doing a game review podcast with me on Friday. If you want to support the show, it's www.patreon.com/Planet FPL. We've got Q&A today. Differential show Game Week 27 preview tomorrow. Tottenham Wednesday, where we should bring some cans for that one. So cans.
Why not? Celebrate.
Cans. Yeah, why not? Money and Football said on PSR remaining on Thursday. And I'm doing a quiz for Clates on Friday. We've also got Suj this week for advanced tier patrons, which will be available for intermediate plus tier patrons as well. Suj is guesting on Nico's Corner this week.
I am indeed. I'm coming back to England. I thought, may as well get in a room with the man and let him terrorise me.
That might be me not coming back to a job.
Nice. Patreon is where you can support the show. You get access to our Slack community as well as prize leagues. You get James's fixture planning spreadsheet and a whole bunch of other stuff as well. Why not do it? It helps keep the lights on, and we're getting towards the end of the season, and over the summer you'll get additional content as well. Interesting talk about PSR this week. On Tottenham, we'll cover off a little bit. I don't know if you'd have seen on socials and stuff, Karen Brady went on Sky's Boardroom podcast and talks quite a bit about the regulator as well, the football regulator and that kind of thing. And we'll be covering off some of the thoughts on that because, surprise, surprise, James, not a lot of people were happy with her comments. So all of that additional content going out each and every day might be something you want to consider. Patreon starts from as little as a few quid at basic tier, and from $9, I think it is.
No ads at basic.
Yeah, all that fun
Sick of these
stuff.
ads. Yeah, no ads.
Good. Thank you so much for supporting the show. We've gone on a little bit, so I hope you've enjoyed it before the tight deadline. Make sure you are subscribed wherever you are listening to the show. Good luck for Game Week 27. Stay safe. Look after yourselves. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Play it your way. Be nice to each other. Cue music, please, man. Sharp.